Hello and welcome to another timeless video here in the brand new Avatar metagame, which has introduced some powerful cards to the format. Force of Negation comes to mind as a free counter spell to stop opposing combos. There's Entomb to power up Reanimator strategies, and today we're building around Dark Depths, which is a legendary snow land. It doesn't actually tap for mana, but it's going to function as a win condition for this strategy. Normally the way Dark Depths works is it enters with 10 ice counters on it. We can pay 3 mana to remove an ice counter. Once we remove all 10, we can sacrifice it and end up with a 20/20 flying indestructible Marit Lage token, which can then hopefully win the game in a single attack. Of course, we're not going to spend 30 mana activating Dark Depths. Instead, we can sort of cheat the system with two different methods. The most straightforward one is with a Vampire Hexmage. A 2 mana 2/1 with First Strike can be sacrificed to remove all counters from target permanent. So we simply sack the Hexmage, target our Dark Depths, remove all 10 counters, immediately sacrifice it, and get our Marit Lage, something we can even do at instant speed, which is pretty useful. The second method is a bit more convoluted. It involves Thespian's Stage, which is a land that can pay 2 mana, tap, and then it becomes a copy of target land, except it also has this ability. Now, Thespian's Stage, when it copies a Dark Depths on the battlefield, does not inherit those 10 ice counters, so we now have a Dark Depths without any counters on it. We also immediately get to sacrifice it, of course keeping the legendary copy without any ice counters on it, and that will also end up in a 20/20 Marit Lage. So that's how we're usually going to do it. Then, of course, we have a few other ways to help assemble these combo pieces, meaning we have Sylvan's Crying to search our library for any land card and put it into our hand, as well as Crop Rotation, which as an additional cost has to sacrifice a land, but then we can also find any other land at instant speed and put it onto the battlefield untapped. So this is how we can try and assemble Thespian Stage plus Dark Depths in case we don't draw the Hexmage. We also have Once Upon a Time, which we can maybe cast for free if it's our first spell, and then we get to look at the top 5 to find a creature or land, so we can find all our lands as well as our Hexmage. And then to speed things up, we also have Chrome Mox, which can maybe imprint one of our colored spells, so we can also tap it for a mana, because it can be pretty slow to set up Thespian Stage plus Dark Depths, especially when Dark Depths doesn't tap for mana itself, but we can address that if we control either Urborg or Yavimaya, which turn all our lands into swamps or forests respectively, so now Dark Depths can tap for mana and can also help pay for the Thespian Stage activation, which can also make a huge difference. And especially Urborg can set up a turn 2 Dark Depths into Marit Lage. If we have Dark Depths alongside Urborg, they can both now tap for a black, cast Hexmage, and then Hexmage on Dark Depths sets up our 20/20. And then rounding out the deck, we also want a bit of disruption, which is why we have the full set of Inquisition as well as Thoughtseize to maybe take away opposing removal spells that could hit our 20/20 indestructible. There's not a ton of answers, but Swords to Plowshares comes to mind, maybe some blue bound spells, and there's some other cards that could interfere. And we can also take opposing counter spells if that's what we need to do instead. And then also a one-off Exploration to let us play an additional land each turn. Can also be useful if we need to get up to enough lands in play to activate Thespian Stage on the Dark Depths. And then Pithing Needle, you might be wondering why we're running 4 in the main deck, but that's mostly here to shut down opposing copies of Strip Mine, which of course, as a land that can be played in any opposing deck, can be a very effective answer to our different land combo. So then Pithing Needle naming Strip Mine will shut them all down. Occasionally can also name an opposing fetch land or maybe even a Planeswalker, so it can be a pretty versatile answer, but for the most part, if we're naming any card in the dark without any information, we're going to name Strip Mine. Speaking of which, we do have 1 Strip Mine in our own deck, in case we need to search it up with a Crop Rotation or Sylvan's Crying, in case we need to deal with an opposing Dark Depths and there's no Pithing Needle in play. Otherwise, we also have 2 copies of Sheoldred's Edict, which is a very clean answer to an opposing Marit Lage, since you can just make the opponent sacrifice a token creature, and that will get around indestructible. Otherwise, still a fine removal spell against other creature decks. And then our mana base also includes 1 Bojuka Bog, which we can also maybe tutor up at instant speed with Crop Rotation, and that can also function as a graveyard hate against Reanimator strategies. Boseiju can also maybe be found with Sylvan's Crying, so we can channel and blow up an opposing artifact or enchantment that's maybe shutting things down. Maybe an opposing Pithing Needle is naming our Thespian Stage, which we can no longer activate to turn into a Marit Lage, so that can also come in handy. Otherwise, we have Verdant to get either our 1 of Basic, Swamp or Forest, or 2 copies of Overgrown Tomb, and that just about sums it up. So yeah, that's our deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the draw. This hand's got double Inquisition for a bit of disruption. Sylvan Scrying gets our Dark Depths to go with Thespian Stage. So it's a pretty slow hand. Yeah, I think it'll be fine. Ideally, we also have Urborg in play, so we can tap our Dark Depths for mana to activate stage. So maybe I'll start with Urborg, since we drew another one. Alright, opponent's mono black. So Ritual can put in One Ring or Shieldred, don't care about Fatal Push. Reanimate, we just get back a creature that the opponent plays at some point. So I guess Ritual's the scariest here. They do have Strip Mine as well, so that can potentially disrupt us. They might fire it off right away, which I don't mind. A card like Grief would be good with Reanimate. Opponent fetches Mortuary to Surveil. Alright, opponent uses Strip Mine on Urborg, that's fine. So, can run back Urborg and Inquisition. Probably taking the Reanimates. So our opponent's not doing much here. Exploration. Only have the 1 green source, so doesn't do much at the moment. But I can go ahead and grab a Forests. Cast Sylvan Scrying. And get Dark Depths. And then next turn with Exploration, I can play Dark Depths and Stage. They can take this away with a discard spell. So yeah, they would need a pretty specific answer here. Another Strip Mine. And that's just a fetch land. Pithing Needle could also name Strip Mine now. So I'll start with Exploration. Given their hand, Pithing Needle probably names the One Ring. But yeah, end of turn, I can activate Thespian Stage. Thanks to Urborg letting this tap for mana. So unless they have an instant speed edict, like my own Shieldred's edict here, they should be dead. Should have maybe main phased this in case our opponent did top deck a Strip Mine. Swamp Cycling's okay. Alright, so end of turn, activate stage, copy Dark Depths, and then gotta make sure to keep the Dark Depths without any counters on it. This will also get sacrificed. Make Marit Lage. And wow, our opponent's last unknown was a Shieldred's Edict. Talk about blowouts. Well, now we got a Pithing Needle named the One Ring. And then Edict can answer Shieldred. So we've kind of answered the opponent's stuff, but it's gonna take us a second to get another Marit Lage. The Zone Guard can get back Strip Mine. So I should probably deal with it now. Pithing Needle probably name Strip Mine now. And our Shieldred's going to be a pretty fast clock. Hexmage I'm going to have to hold because of Fatal Push. So then I just need to top deck Crop Rotation or another Dark Depths. Thoughtseize, probably not even worth casting here. Opponent forgot to attack. Yeah, I think I hang on to Thoughtseize. Could get punished if they had a discard spell that they're now going to fire off. Bowmasters. That's going to add on to the pressure. Alright, this is probably my last chance. They can still cast a One Ring to protect them for a turn, which is what they'll do. Maybe afraid of a crop rotation. Well, we drew Dark Depths. I'm at 6. So I just have to go Dark Depths, Hexmage. Can wait on activating Hexmage, but opponent might force issue with Fatal Push. And then our opponent's also at 21 in the meantime, so a single attack is not actually enough. So I'm probably still dead. Yeah, the life gain from Shieldred making the difference. They probably have another copy in hand, is my guess. Yep. And Once Upon a Time. So what do I need to top deck here? I don't think there's anything that really saves me. But I guess we'll go digging. Strip Mine can't activate because of my own Pithing Needle. So yeah, I can attack, put them to 3, and then die. If I stay back, we also die to the Shieldred's trigger, so incredibly close game. Yeah, the top-decked Shieldred's Edict was quite a blowout. And now Grief can have a look. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. This hand's just a Hexmage away from a turn 2 Marit Lage. Otherwise, what do we need to top deck? Thespian Stage itself would be good. Hexmage, of course, and then I will need green mana to cast some of my other tutor effects. I do have some good Disruption, Pithing Needle for Strip Mine. I think it's still keepable. So I can open with Inquisition. Alright, start with Once Upon a Time. Can hit both Hexmage or find our stage, finds a Verdant instead. Yeah, I think I still Urborg, Inquisition, see what's up. I may have to Chrome Mox Pithing Needle if our opponent's got a Strip Mine in hand. Alright, so it's a blue-black Reanimator with a Force of Negation. Force isn't the end of the world, but it could be annoying depending on how things line up. They have to pitch a blue card to cast it. So I could just take the blue card and leave them with some dead Reanimates. They do have Valgavoth in hand, so that's what they're hoping to discard. So I don't think I need to Chrome Mox yet. Could also Pithing Needle like a Psychic Frog in case they top deck it and immediately discard Valgavoth to set up Reanimate. Although Marit Lage could compete with Valgavoth. Just a swamp. Alright, so can Thoughtseize again. Probably going for Force this time. Opponent's going to brainstorm a response so they can hide their better cards. At least they can't leave themselves with only Valgavoth as a card to take, which I'm sure our opponent would prefer. Alright, Chrome Mox, double Reanimate, we'll take the Force. And then I don't think I bother using Pithing Needle. I guess I could name Polluted Delta. They can still tap it for mana, but it prevents them from shuffling. Since I don't think my opponent's a strip mine deck necessarily. So sure, we'll Pithing Needle, Polluted Delta. And then their top decks may not be quite as exciting anymore. Another Dark Depths, it is legendary, so don't want to run it out. So I'm just waiting on Hexmage or Thespian Stage. Crop Rotation, Sylvan Scrying, those are good too. I guess I could start removing ice counters slowly. Strip Mine I can use. Take them off blue mana. Yeah, why not? Pass a turn. Opponent's got nothing. Another Urborg. So it's a bit of a waiting game. Time for Chromox, maybe setting up blue mana. So they could cast like a Psychic Frog, discard Valgavoth and reanimate it. Alright, they're pitching Valgavoth. Another Chromox. Pitching Reanimate. Are we hardcasting Grief? Demonic Tutor, this cannot be good for me. So 2 mana left. They still have a Reanimate in hand. They didn't immediately get a specific card, so maybe they hadn't made up their mind yet. Thoughtseize yourself, and then you can reanimate. I'm surprised they didn't have a better discard outlet, but yeah, sometimes you gotta do it the hard way. And our opponent's going for Iona, Shield of Emeria. Your opponents cannot cast spells of the chosen color. Doesn't really stop Dark Depths combo, but it can certainly stop me from casting certain spells. So now Hexmage is off the table, but I could still draw Thespian Stage or one of my green tutors. Alright, time to cast Once Upon a Time. Find Hexmage, but that's no longer gonna work. So I guess I'll still take it here. And then there's no land I want to play because they're all legends. Could Urborg just to remove a counter, but I don't think that's going to be fast enough to deal with Iona. So, opponents now with a Grief can take Chromox maybe. Does also protect Iona from Sheoldred's Edict, although wouldn't be able to cast that anyway. So yeah, we're just hoping for Sylvan Scrying, Crop Rotation, or Thespian Stage. We found Sylvan Scrying. Let's go. So get Stage. Play it, pass a turn. We'll see if our opponent knows how this interaction works. Because I can block Iona right now. And just a Grief attacking for 3. That one has Menace. Keep the one without counters. And then I can set up a second Marit Lage with a Hexmage as well. Crop Rotation. Could exile their graveyard with Bojuka Bog. But for now we'll attack. Opponent's got a chump. Now I can play Hexmage. And then keep Crop Rotation available. And our opponent explodes. Awesome. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. We do not have Dark Depths. We can assemble Dark Depths plus Stage, although it's going to take a second to set up. In the meantime, Pithing Needle maybe hits Strip Mine, and then we can Thoughtseize. It's a little slow, but maybe it's good enough. Have a lot of good top decks as well. Chromox could also speed things up. For now, let's just have a look, and then we can reassess. Alright, opponent on Show and Tell combo with Sneak Attack as well. So, Mana Drain, probably the biggest problem card. Also takes away a colored spell for Chromox. And then I could Chromox pitch a green card to Crop Rotate. I mean, Pithing Needle's probably naming Sneak Attack. Don't have to do that now. So I think we wait. So yeah, the biggest concern now would be our opponent casting Show and Tell, putting in Atraxa. Probably do have to Pithing Needle this turn cycle if we want to be safe. Although I guess even with the Chromox they need 5 total to play and activate. So that's not very likely to happen unless Ancient Tomb casts Sneak Attack and then they need one more card to pitch to Chromox to activate. So yeah, using Pithing Needles, definitely the safest play. Can probably afford to lose one Sylvan Scrying. And then I can Sylvan Scrying for Stage, which still taps for mana, and cast Pithing Needle. So I can Crop Rotate for Dark Depths. The only problem is I do not have Urborg or Yavimaya in play, so Dark Depths itself doesn't tap for mana. Alright, we drew Dark Depths, that helps. So now I can just play it and pass, and then end of turn make Marit Lage. So then, what's the worst case scenario? Even have Sheoldred's Edict to answer an Emrakul. And our opponent explodes, awesome. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. We have double Crop Rotation, Once Upon a Time, some discard spells. So it's definitely a slower hand, but we have Disruption, so I'm gonna try it. Start with Once Upon a Time, hopefully find like an Urborg or a Dark Depths or a Thespian Stage. Urborg would let me play these discard spells without necessarily slowing me down later. Although I'm also gonna have to sack a land to Crop Rotation. Grab Boseiju. And let's Inquisition first. And see double Strip Mine, Ritual, Push, Agent. Agent's a problem since that also stops my Crop Rotation and they can cast it through Dark Ritual. Although, funnily enough, if I take Chromox, my opponent cannot cast any of their spells, but they can still bully me with Strip Mines. So, pretty interesting hand. I could also just take the Dark Ritual. Yeah, let's do that instead. And then next turn I'll likely still be able to Thoughtseize the Agent. Well, that is unless they Strip Mine me, then I guess I don't have black mana. So our preferred draws here might be Pithing Needle, additional black mana for Thoughtseize. Alright, that's my black mana. If I keep Verdant available, I can also kind of protect myself from a Strip Mine effect. Or I can just Thoughtseize the Agent now, in case they top deck another Dark Ritual, which could be bad. Yeah, feels like the Strip Mine is going to find its target sooner or later. So then I may as well get a use out of it. Right, they have a Barrogoyf. Could also take the Chromox, because Chromox for Fatal Push is basically free on their part. And then it's going to be ages before they can cast any of their 3-drops. And it could actually be worth it to Chromox pitch Crop Rotation, so if they go and Strip Mine me, I can still Crop Rotate in response. Although that does put me further from assembling any combo. So yeah, there's a lot going on in the early turns. Alright, they are actually strip mining me. So then what land do I get? With double green I'm very far from casting Hexmage, so then I might be better off grabbing a Thespian Stage, which at least taps for mana. So then I can at some point maybe Sylvan Scrying for Dark Depths. Alright, perfect, drew the Sylvan Scrying. So get Dark Depths. Probably play Boseiju now, since we're safe from a discard spell, but they could still have a strip mine. And then next turn I can make a 20/20. Fatal Push is not going to help. Opponent currently without any mana sources. So yeah, this has been a pretty interesting game, despite the battlefield being quite empty. Opponent's timing out, they probably don't have a play to make anyways. Top deck Sheoldred's Edict, although I cannot cast it. I think I main phase activate here, in case our opponent does top deck strip mine. And without any mana, I don't see them removing this. They would need their own Edict, and they seem pretty far from casting it. Yeah, I'm glad we went for the crop rotation Chrome Mox play. Maybe could have gone for it sooner, because it did strip mine me right away as well. Take my turn and attack for 20. Nice and clean. Sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. We've got a bit of disruption with Thoughtseize, and then crop rotation for Dark Depths, activate with Thespian Stage. It's not an amazing hand. Still missing something to pitch to Chrome Mox to maybe speed things up. I don't think I pitch Thoughtseize since I really need some disruption here. But I'll try it. Turn 1 Scalding Tarn for Steam Vents and Ragavan. Alright, so a Ragavan deck that's blue-red. Still not entirely sure what to make of it. So it's mostly counter spells that we're worried about, as opposed to any other form of disruption possible. They have Strip Mine as well, which is probably what we'll name with Pithing Needle. I think I just start with good old Thoughtseize of maybe Overgrown Tomb, so I can crop rotate if needed. Alright, so they've got Bolt, Tameo, Ponder. Don't care about Bolt. Tameo can block Marit Lage, but it's not the end of the world. Ponder could maybe find them more specific answers. Maybe I still go for Tameo. If our opponent ponders next turn, they don't necessarily know what to do with it. Alright, the jig is up. Vampire Hexmage. They won't be able to cast it right now. I might also get burnt out here by a bunch of bolts, if I'm not careful. And Architect. So that's also pretty good with those fetch lanes. Found crop rotation once again. So I could now maybe pitch one to Chrome Mox, which then allows me to crop rotate for Dark Depths while still playing Thespian Stage. Although I won't be able to activate yet. Still 1 mana short. So then I could start with Pithing Needle, see what the response is. Because I could also name Flooded Strand if they don't fetch a response. Opponent's gonna fetch a response. Get their land, that'll draw a card. Thundering Falls, never mind. I guess they haven't attacked yet. And now we'll name Strip Mine. And then I could crop rotate now, while we know it's gonna resolve. And get Dark Depths. And then I could Chrome Mox out crop rotation as well, so I'll have enough mana to activate Stage next turn. Don't think I'll need a second crop rotation. In case they had a counterspell for the Chrome Mox. So how can this go wrong? Our opponent having a bounce spell for Marit Lage, who Shieldred's Edict. I'm glad they didn't draw into later. Right now it doesn't do anything. The Architect can also jump for a turn. So Ragavan can maybe attack once again. Alright, play stage and pass. Steel Cutter is acceptable. Bolt goes face. Yeah, I can't quite Boseiju the Cutter, because then I wouldn't have mana to activate Thespian Stage, because the Dark Depths currently doesn't tap for mana. But what I can do is activate Stage now and set up an ambush. Keep the one without counters. And then I probably block Ragavan in case they hit another Shieldred's Edict. Strip Mine is fine. Can't activate because of Pithing Needle. So they need either a bounce spell or a flying blocker to survive. Lightning Bolt is close. Puts me to 1. And Tamio, wow. They had the blocker. And the bolt. So now I'm just dead to an attack on the way back, even if I Boseiju the Cutter. And yeah, this tapped for blue thanks to the Architect's ability, otherwise they would not have been able to play Tamio. Well, that was very unfortunate. So I guess I don't even bother attacking. And probably still die next turn. Yeah, we even took the Tamio early on with a discard spell to try and avoid this situation. So I can block Boseiju the Cutter, but still take 1. And that's going to be just enough here. Opponent can Brainstorm, trigger Prowess, but yeah, we're already dead. This will flip Tamio. Super close game. And yeah, the Architect is a powerful one with those blue fetches. Being able to get your island Strip Mine.
This will be a boon to my research.
But I think we still need to name Strip Mine with a needle. So I don't know if we necessarily did anything wrong. Just didn't quite pan out. Alright, GG's. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. This hand is lacking Disruption. Urborg could set up a turn 2 Marit Lage. This might be just turn 1 Needle on Strip Mine, and then maybe Chrome Mox pitching Hexmage, and then turn 3 I can activate Stage on Dark Depths. Yeah, sure. And once upon a time. Find Strip Mine, so we know what to name. Although the problem here is if I play a land to cast Pithing Needle, they just Strip Mine in response. So I'm forced to Chrome Mox Hexmage to Needle first. And then now, I guess we run out Stage, because that at least taps for mana. Once upon a time I can cast with Boseiju. Sure, I mean, I wouldn't be able to activate Stage this turn anyways if I play Dark Depths, because Dark Depths doesn't tap for mana. Opponent's also on the combo. So I might actually regret playing Boseiju, because it is an answer to an opposing non-basic land. But with the Chrome Mox we are ahead in the combo. Opponent doesn't have a land. Hexmage I could cast, but then I don't have Dark Depths in play. So yeah, I'll pass. End of turn, make Marit Lage. Opponent's a turn behind. And of course they're familiar with the combo. GG's, on to the next one. Alright, we're on the play. This hand can play a turn to Marit Lage with crop rotation for Urborg. And then Hexmage. Yeah. And I kind of need green here. So I think we're pitching Exploration. And then, should I crop rotate now? I guess that's maybe safer. And get Urborg. And then next turn I have double Hexmage, so one discard spell is not good enough. I guess Strip Mine could have gotten me here. They can still run it out. So that was a reason to maybe wait on crop rotation until end of turn. Just a Scalding Tarn. Yeah, I guess going for crop rotation in their turn plays around Force, but they could have had some other cheap counter.
Oh no! I'm late for
Okay,
class.
so play Hexmage, and that's about it. I think I activated now even to play around opponents running out Strip Mine. And then now they would need a bounce spell. And we can maybe set it up a second time here. Tamiya's still attacking. Brainstorm to transform her. But yeah, if they don't have another flyer, they would be dead.
I'll aid you. So focus on the fight.
So we might see a second Tamiyo. Hexmage could also destroy Tamiyo by removing all its loyalty. And our opponent explodes, I'll take it. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. We have crop rotation to get Thespian Stage, although no green mana yet. In the meantime I can Thoughtseize twice, Bojuka Bog for graveyard decks. So there's potential here. I think I tried. Top decking Hexmage could also set up a turn 2 Marit Lage. Opponent with Once Upon a Time, so it could be a mirror match, or it could be some sort of Strip Mine deck. So do they play Deathrite? It's going to be the Architect instead. Alright, so Thoughtseize of Urborg, I think. Opponent does have Force, Flare as well. And then another Architect, Deathrite. So at least they don't have a fetch land to go with Architect. Force could stop crop rotation, so can Flare of Denial. I think I actually take the Flare, because then our opponent can't play another Architect out, because then they won't have a way to cast a Force, whereas they can already Flare of Denial if they'd like. And I don't think we care enough about Deathrite Shaman. So next turn I can just Thoughtseize them again to maybe take the other counterspell, we'll see. Force also cannot counter Hexmage if I top deck it, because then we can set up turn 2 Marit Lage. Their opponent runs out Architect, meaning they don't necessarily have Force up unless they drew a blue card. I mean, I'm still gonna Thoughtseize since I can't do anything else here. Alright, they did draw another blue card, so they did have force up. I think I just take the Architect now, because it's also just a flying blocker, which can chump Marit Lage for an extra turn. And then if I play Dark Depths and draw Thespian Stage, I can set it up next turn. So I don't think there's a need for Bojuka Bog. Yeah, Chromok's not looking great in this hand. Although if I draw another green card, we're good to go. My opponent's got a fetch, so now they can draw a card off their Architect Island. And Polluted Delta means they can draw another card. So yeah, they're getting ahead. And Strip Mine, that's a problem too. Although we do have a backup Dark Depths. They actually hit Urborg. And Sylvan's Crying. So where does that leave me? If I get Thespian Stage now, I would be a little bit behind on mana to activate Stage. Although I can still pitch Crop Rotation, next turn cast Sylvan's Crying. I mean, that's assuming they don't Force of Negation me. Yeah, Crop Rotation's probably out of the question now. So I'll start with Chromox. Alright, opponent forces, happy to see that. Pitching Halorian Revealed, so then I can Chromox again. Pitch Crop Rotation, cannot Sylvan's Crying yet, because Dark Depths no longer taps for mana, but I can Bojuka Bog. And then next turn I can Sylvan's Crying for Stage. Hopefully we're not too slow. Ooh, another Strip Mine. Going for Bojuka Bog. And drew Crop Rotation. So I'm gonna have to Crop Rotation my Dark Depths to get probably Urborg. Or I can go for Yavimaya, that's maybe better here. And then I can still Sylvan's Crying. Get Stage. Alright, so we figured it out. Now, please don't draw any Disruption. Counter spells are fine now, and wow, our opponent scoops it up, so yeah, despite double Strip Mine and a bunch of free counter spells, we still got there. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. This hand feels a little too slow, even though we have Sylvan's Crying to assemble all the pieces. I only have Thoughtseize for Disruption, don't have Urborg early. I think we can do better. This is a slight improvement. Have the Hexmage, so we just need Dark Depths, ideally Urborg as well, but can make this work. Probably say no to Strip Mine. And then we can name Strip Mine with Pithing Needle. Turn 1 Pilgrim. So what's my play? Could also just Crop Rotate for Urborg, end of turn. Still need to Sylvan's Crying for Dark Depths. So it's gonna take a second to set up. Pithing Needle does not stop Avacyn's Pilgrim for what it's worth. Yeah, let's just Pithing Needle, Strip Mine. And maybe playing Hexmage as a blocker is going to be worth it, we'll see. Opponent does not attack. Are they maybe casting an instant here? Since I drew another Hexmage, it seems worth it to just play one now. And then next turn I can Hexmage plus Crop Rotate for Dark Depths. If they have Swords to Plowshares, it's good to get those out of their hand anyway. Even Interrupter, I see. So it's a green-white counter company type of deck. Well, I can still recast it for 2 mana. Another Interrupter, fair enough. Think I crop rotate now. And get my Dark Depths. Now it costs 4, so I'm probably going to have to cast the one from hand. How many more Interrupters do they have? Opponent passes. Okay, so gotta try Hexmage, and then Verdant can get another land. Maybe I'll be able to play a 4-mana Hexmage after all. If they have a third Interrupter, it's probably game over. I guess I could still maybe Sylvan Scrying into Thespian stage, but I imagine that's going to be too slow. Alright, that resolves. So that sets up Marit Lage. So I could do this now. There's a chance your opponent has a creature second main that exiles one of my creatures. There's a few effects that come to mind that can deal with tokens pretty easily. So then it would be better to take 4 and then set up the attack in their end step, basically. Yeah, unlocking Hexmage doesn't seem super relevant at this point. And I have to assume my opponent knows this interaction. So now, end of turn, we can go for it. Do I fetch? Maybe. Get another Overgrown Tomb. And drew Thespian stage. So step 1, attack. If their removal is swords, at least I'll gain 20. They had a bodyguard all along. Yeah, that's rough. So that just exiles my creature. And Sheoldred's Edict is not the answer we need here. If I had targeted removal, it would have worked. So now I'm taking a bunch of damage on the way back. Can still play Hexmage to block, and that technically keeps me alive. And then Sylvan Scrying could get another Dark Depths. But yeah, they also had the Skyclave. This one says non-token specifically, so they needed the bodyguard for Dark Depths. GG's. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw. This hand's almost great. If we replace stage with Dark Depths, we can turn 1 discard, turn 2 play Dark Depths, play Hexmage, and make a 20/20. This one is still missing Dark Depths, even though we have Sylvan Scrying, but we're also missing green mana. I think with the 2 discard spells, it's maybe still keepable. If we draw green source or Dark Depths, we're happy. Chrome Mox pitching Scrying is good enough. So we have some outs. Opponent taking some aggressive mulligans, so they might be on combo. Turn 1 Tameo. I think I still Orborg since that has the highest upside, even though it's weaker in the face of a Strip Mine. And then for now I can Inquisition. Alright, just to reanimate. So our opponent's on empty. Oh, never mind. Architect now. With fetch lands can draw them some cards. Found a Chrome Mox. So I can Chrome Mox. Pitch Sylvan Scrying. Because I need the green, otherwise I would pitch Thoughtseize. Cast Sylvan Scrying. And get Dark Depths. And then I don't have to play it yet, in case our opponent top decks a Strip Mine. Instead, I guess I can just play Thespian Stage. They don't know about a Hexmage yet. Pass a turn. And then next turn I can make a 20/20 in a number of ways. So one land randomly became an island. It was a Misty, so that draws a card. And get a Sewers. Another fetch land. So they're probably cracking a clue. Tamiya transforms. Which means they also have fewer flying blockers to get in the way. Alright, so play Dark Depths. Can Thoughtseize them now and then still Hexmage, which seems reasonable. Take a Grief. Could Hexmage now to play around a top-decked Strip Mine. That's maybe better. I don't think my opponent's gonna run face first into Marit Lage. Opponent reanimates Grief, that's fine. They might have been better off jumping with Architect and reanimating it to buy themselves more time. Alright, and that'll do it. So we got to see this black-green Turbo Dark Depths deck in action. And yeah, the turn 2 potential with Hexmage is pretty sweet. The deck is pretty resilient to disruption in the sense that we're mostly relying on our lanes, so then Strip Mine is the main concern and we can even shut it down with our Pithing Needle. So yeah, overall quite happy with where the deck is currently positioned in the Timeless metagame. It's a deck that could still be fine-tuned a little bit, and of course can also benefit from a sideboard in best of 3, where you can bring in additional discard spells or removal spells, depending on the matchup, so it can be quite flexible there as well. But yeah, for now, I want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.